Movies are getting safer, more boring, and Hollywood is terrified about taking risks. Budgets are getting too high. If we think about Disney and how they will spend up to $300 million about making sequels or massive blockbusters such as Black Widow or Miss Marvels, are some of the key examples of movies not doing as well as what they should be with the budget that they have been provided, meaning that Hollywood is scared to go either lower or higher, which is becoming a problem for them because they think that, well, if we only do big budget movies, then that should be our norm. And as we can see and as we know, they're not doing too well. In fact, they are absolutely plummeting down, which is why Hollywood should be starting to take risks, which is becoming a problem for them because all the higher budget movies are like, oh, okay, well, if we do more big budget movies, then that should become to be our norm, which is what we can see Hollywood has started to become, where they are more willing to spend more money on movies that are actually doing a lot worse. The second is sequels and remakes. I mean, I could you not, the amount of movies that are coming out of, especially Disney. I think Disney is one that I'm really pinpointing because they have made so many sequels, so many remakes, and it's quite obvious that we never really needed them in the first place. Like, I'm quite fine of having the 1994 Snow White, but obviously they're like, no, let's do a new one. And I think it's not too bad making a new one, but if you don't address the original, then you're obviously going to have some problems. And as much as I love Rachel Zegler, you can see why the movie didn't do as well as what was expected. The next thing is screenwriters, and as we can see from future projects or current projects or even past projects, is that Hollywood is more asking producers and directors to make scripts compared to actual screenwriters. And that is a problem because screenwriters, they have a lot of ideas. That's their job, to make scripts. So if they're not getting used, then it's going to make it a lot harder for future screenwriters to try and get into the business, because that's what Hollywood wants. Hollywood is looking for producers and directors to create scripts, which makes it harder for people to get into, which, as we know, is already a big problem in Hollywood. So the first major studio that I'm going to talk about is Marvel. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore Marvel, but if we look about all the movies that have been made between Endgame and now Doomsday, which is going to be coming out next year, which I'm so excited for, the quality has gone down, and it's pretty steep gone down from Endgame to what is that going to be, Doomsday. I think for me, what I can see, it is a part of the actual, it's a part of badly used CGI. I mean, if you look at Miss Marvel, it's a great concept to have a movie that focuses on strong female characters in a movie, especially Marvel, because, it's mainly male dominated, but then again, you can say that about a lot of things. But it didn't do very well. It could be because the CGI wasn't done tastefully, or it could be because of the script, because, as you know, the script is the story. So if the script isn't doing very well, then the movie is going to flop. If you look at a movie example, you can do All's Fair. I could you not, literally the worst worst TV show I've ever seen. Look, Kim, there's it's just honestly was bad from the start. As soon as you have Chris in there, it's not good. Yeah. Do not watch All's Fair to save you from your Sunday. I wish I could get those 6 hours back when we binge. Now, I've never watched Fast and Furious, but I think from when Paul Walker unfortunately passed away in 2013, that it just went down. When, if we think about Quentin Tarantino, when his mentality when it comes to movies or making movies is that you quit at the top of your game. Let me tell you, Fast and Furious definitely did not do that. I mean, since that movie was made, I think Fast and Furious 5, it has seriously gone down. Like, I honestly think they should have stopped. You have to, I think Hollywood should really be thinking about what movies, like, the audience. I honestly think that the Fast and Furious crew, who was a part of pre-production and post-production and all the elements in between, really should have thought about the audience. What characters in the movie were the audience really connected to? And for most people, it would have been Paul Walker. Now, with his untimely death, you're like, well, we still have a couple of movies that we wanted to make. Let's make them. And look, I kind of understand that, like, you know, it's very hard when you lose a cast member, but, you know, the show, the show keeps on going. But I think with Fast and Furious, you really should have stopped earlier, because it has just been like that. It really has not been very good. Down from up here to down there. Like, I really think it shouldn't have. Next is Disney remakes. Now, I did touch on it a little bit before with Snow White, but do we really need another, like, Lion King or another Disney remake? I mean, Moana is coming up, and I think it will be good. The trailer, I was like, okay, I see what you guys are doing, but do you really need another one? Like, let's be real here. With the amount of remakes that you're doing and the budget that you have, you're clearly not getting return on investment, and that is really hurting Disney's image. So Disney, if you're looking at this video, please do not make another one. For the love of every single person who may watch your movies, for all the super fans out there, please, no remakes, okay? It's bad enough that you did really poorly on Snow White, but you definitely do not need to make Rapunzel or any of that, because it's just not going to work. I mean, even with Moana, I really, really love Moana. I love the songs, but you didn't even have some of the best songs in there. It's like, hello? That's like the part that made the movie good. Like, I'll Make a Man of You is one of my favorite songs from Mulan. I didn't even have it in the remake. It's like, so, okay, so what was the point? You know, I have to think about, so, you know, what else we're going to do kind of thing. So next is franchise over originality. Like, I'm going to get really, really passionate about this, but I think people need to start realizing is that we do not want a full 10 movie series if we could just have one movie. Like, I think it is, like, I really, really think that it's time for Hollywood to stop focusing on franchises and focus on singular movies. Like, I don't think they I honestly don't think Hollywood understands that original movies, movies that are like, I honestly think that franchises shouldn't even exist anymore, because I don't think Hollywood understands, like, yes, okay, if you make one good movie, okay, that's good, but you also need to understand that if you make one exceptionally good movie, there is no need to make a second one, even if there might be some plot holes that might not have been answered. It's like, might as well just only make one. Like, look, as much as I love Extraction, for example, and I definitely am looking forward to Extraction 3, hopefully they're making another one, because I can't deal with not having another one. But a lot of people are saying that the first Extraction movie was like, well, it should have just been one and done. And I've watched both of them, and I mean, I guess I can kind of see where they're coming from, but I think it's also best for Hollywood to just focus on making one exceptionally good movie that couldn't get them awards, you know, like the Golden Globes or the Oscars or something like that, because making franchises is not helping them in any way, and you're going to be starting to lose more money than what you actually want to make from having the franchise as a franchise. Now, why are audiences getting bored? Well, why are audiences getting bored? Well, I think I've come down to 3 things. First of all, predictable stories. Second of all, emotional stakes and reuse actors, plots, and tone. First of all, predictable stories. I mean, come on, haven't we seen enough, like, horror stories or action movies? Like, I think it's start for Hollywood to actually branch out, maybe making more comedies, romance movies, or even making thrillers. I don't think I've seen many thrillers. I've watched a couple of TV show thrillers, but I haven't seen many movie thrillers. I think that can really benefit the level of movies are, because if we're all doing at the same pace, then realistically they're not going to rise any higher. Well, if you do better, maybe more surprising movies, then it's going to really engage the audience, be like, oh, okay, and maybe you can get more screenwriters out of it, or maybe you can get more movie makers out of it. Like, okay, maybe thrillers is doing really, really well after having a switch from making a lot of action movies to making thrillers. Okay, maybe I'll go on that, and then we'll be seeing more thrillers. And thrillers are known to be more engaging with lots of plot twists and points in the story where they actually catch the audience off guard, which is different compared to horror stories, because horror stories are made for fear with their plot twists, while thrillers are more made for the sake of the story. At least that's my point of view. Again, I actually am not very big of a horror fan. I get too scared anyways in life. I don't think I really need a horror story to do all the emotional damage, but I think thrillers are going to make a great move in the industry and be more engaging for audiences. Next, second point of why audiences are getting bored is no emotional stakes. I mean, come on, I think we are done with seeing the same stories. Let's say like a girl and a boy falling in love in, like, I don't know, maybe like LA or something. Like, come on, haven't we seen that so many times? Like, it genuinely pisses me off. I think we need to see the stakes of emotional rise up here, because I'm sick of seeing the same structured stories all the time. I'm pretty sure the audience is thinking the exact same. Next, same actors. Oh my god, like, here's the thing. I love Jacob Elordi, love Margot Robbie, love Chris Hemsworth, and I will watch any movie that they make or any TV show that they make. But I think it is also really good to start using different actors. Like, there are so many actors, like more actors trying to get into the industry than actually in the industry, or in that 3% that are actually rich and famous. It's like, let's think about Adolescence, for example. Even though it's a TV show, like, Owen Cooper was previously unknown before he got into the role, and now he's all that anybody could talk about, including me. You know, let's keep on doing more of that. We can see that it works. It helps actors trying to get into the industry, and it makes it more diverse. I mean, let's think about it for a second. How many Latino actors have we seen that are doing really well? Because between you and me, I honestly don't think I can name much. If you think about the actor who was in Euphoria, you know, she's Latino, and I absolutely love her so much. But she actually says that she is actually thinking about quitting acting, or even has quit acting, because she can't find many roles that are for Latino actors. And I think that is actually a pretty big problem in Hollywood. There actually aren't enough roles of diverse people that are being made for diverse people. Like, if you don't write a story about, let's say an African person, then you best believe that if an African person tries to go for a Caucasian role, then they are most likely not going to get that role because they don't fit the mold. But now it's time to break the mold. It's trying to break the shell, because, you know, as someone who is trying to break into the industry, I really feel for, you know, people who've been able to make it big in the industry and trying to find other roles but can't get it because of the barrier of diversity. I mean, between you and me, how many actors are Kenyan Australian? Between you and me, how many actors are African Australian that have broken into the industry? I can name a couple of African British actors. Obviously, I can name a bunch of African American actors, but I can't name any Australian African actors. And, you know, that's the problem that we have. If you don't make any movies that aren't focusing on diverse roles, then you're not going to be getting many diverse people that can break into the industry. The next is same plots. Like, come on, people. I've said it before. I think we are sick of seeing the same thing over and over again. Yes, I understand that it may get producers, it will guarantee producers money, But is that really all that we're doing? Is this all money? Because I think we need to remind Hollywood that yes, okay, it is a big industry for money. I mean, that's even why some actors even act for the money. And I understand that. I mean, you know, a small role can get you like $200, or you can get more to $1 million or something. And I understand that, but seriously, plots. Come on, people, let's reevaluate this thing. I'm sick of seeing the same thing all over and over again. Again, barriers are meant to be broken. I think it is time to break the barriers again and let Hollywood breathe a bit to let more people in, and then we will have a good cycle, and then there'll be more availability instead of seeing the same thing over and over again that will guarantee Hollywood money, and then actually the guarantee that they thought would do well is actually going to make it go down. Now, look, I can say so much bad about Hollywood. I mean, look, as someone, an outsider, as an audience, I don't think Hollywood is doing very well. I think it's very repetitive of what they're showing to us as the audience. But now I'm going to come up with some solutions that Hollywood can actually do to make it more inclusive, to make it a better place and an easier place for more people to actually break into the industry. First is low budget films. I mean, let's look at A24, for example. Why are they doing so well? Well, it's because they have realized that if they have a more lower budget project, they can actually tweak things to work with the budget. And, you know, we've seen Midsummer. Like, there is just so many, and clearly with not using, you know, big budgets, they can actually be more strategic when it comes to storytelling. For example, Midsummer has won countless awards, Oscars, and it's because A24 know what they're doing. You know, if you see their iconic logo at the start of the movie, then you best believe that they're actually going to be doing a very good job when it comes to having a good, solid story. Next is riskier concepts. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I think it is time for Hollywood to explore maybe some deeper concepts, maybe focus on war, maybe not only in World War II or in the Vietnam War, but maybe go more towards the war in Japan, or maybe go more towards maybe the Ukrainian war, you know? I don't think, even though it is a current conflict, I don't think I've seen many movies that have been focusing on the Ukrainian war, or maybe what's happening in Gaza and Palestine, you know? I understand that it is a very sensitive topic at the moment, but with Hollywood, what they can actually do very well is to bring light to a subject. You know, you see actors saying like, hey, climate change is real, and then it brings light to climate change, and you're like, oh, okay, you know, maybe we actually need to do something about climate change, and it changes the perspective on the audience. Now, I've also touched this before, well, one part of it anyways, and that is new actors. As we saw with adolescents, we can see that actually having new actors can bring light to, you know, really incredible actors who are incredible at their craft but just haven't broken into the industry. And, you know, if you use those actors who are starting to rise, they're not only going to improve the value of your movie, but you're not going to have repetition of using the same actors over and over again, like maybe Jacob Elordi or Margot Robbie. Like, look, don't get me wrong, they are incredible actors, but I think it is definitely time to see better, newer actors. Now, this part I have not touched in the entire video, but what about new locations? Like, between you and me, and I can get very passionate about this, but how many movies have we seen that have been filmed in Australia that have gotten to Hollywood? From Crocodile Dundee, that was back in maybe the 70s. I don't think I've seen a movie that has been solely based in Australia. We're not talking about Anyone But You because it has America and Australia. I'm talking about just Australian movies. Now, of course, I'm going to be more passionate about it because I am Australian, but I think it is time to maybe branch out on new locations and movies. For example, if we think about Melbourne, for example, where I'm from, you could have a movie that is focused around the art scene, which is a very prestigious place in Melbourne, you know. And you could have, for example, a murderous artist who is hiding. For example, you could have a thriller of a artist who is trying to make their way into the art industry, but instead of doing it the normal way of having incredible paintings, they're actually eliminating their opponents by using a brush, but in the brush is a knife. And then they use the blood of the opponent to make an incredible painting. And they can use a new way of trying to express themselves. Like, this is anger, and I've expressed anger in this painting. And of course, someone is going to be looking too closely at it because they don't know, you don't know how they've gotten their blood. They might just think they're very good at using different types of blood. Or you could make a serial killer and, same kind of concept, using blood as a paint, but using different types of blood to see if it changes the tone. We're using different types of blood to see if there's any difference in shade. Like, there are very different concepts that you can do with moving out of maybe Hollywood or London or Japan. You could use places like, maybe not Romania because of Wednesday, but maybe like Malta, for example, is a lesser known, beautiful, stunning place in Europe that is normally shadowed by Greece. And finally, we have fresh voices. This includes new screenwriters, new producers, just using anybody who hasn't really had a good opportunity to get into the industry. Now look, I understand that as a screenwriter, as someone from Melbourne, as someone who's trying to get into Hollywood, it's going to be extremely hard for me, but I have seen that I can use YouTube as a platform to try and make my way into the industry. While I have not tried it yet, it's definitely something that I want to go in. And I think, trying to find, even just looking for ideas on like TikTok or YouTube, and then having the person who came up with the idea to be like, hey, you know what? I really, really like your idea, and I actually want to use your idea in a movie. And because it's unique and because it's got virality, it can actually help that movie do better compared to having basic storylines, predictable outcomes or plot twists, and having it actually bomb compared to actually doing better because you're using the same formula over and over again. Even though I'm someone who absolutely despises maths, I no longer do maths anymore. But I found out that you actually cannot use the same formula for everything, and I think is a new concept of looking at, even for Hollywood, You can't keep on using the same formula all the time because it's not going to work. And we have seen as audience, as people who love watching Hollywood movies, is that formula is not working. Making remakes, making sequels, making franchises, it doesn't work. So you need to change the formula. You need to use new storylines. You need to use new people. Like, yes, you can have maybe one or two big actors in there, because I understand that because Hollywood is so strict about using the same formula over and over again, they are more unlikely to use just an entire, like, not coming from an indie movie, but just having, like, as maybe a Hollywood producer is like, hey, I found a bunch of rising stars, can we use it in a movie? Hollywood is more likely to be like, actually, no, I don't think so, because we need the movie to do well, so we need more qualified names. And I understand that, but you don't have to have an entire movie of qualified names, so you don't need to reuse the same people for every single movie. Understand that it benefits the studio, understand it benefits the actor, but it does not benefit anybody else. And, I have mixed feelings about Wuthering Heights, because it is a movie that the casting hasn't really fit with the book. For example, the story of Wuthering Heights, the girl that Margot plays is actually meant to be 17, my age. but Margot is almost 30 years old, or is 30 years old, and so you have to change the entire script and it doesn't work with the movie. If you think about Snow White, for example, you know, as much as I love Rachel Zegler, I love The Hunger Games, but you're not using actors that, if you don't use actors that fit with the storyline, then that storyline isn't going to go very well. If you don't make a good story, then it is not going to go very well. Use the same formula with all of that, then you best believe that is not going to work very well. So we need to change that. Now, as I said before, I'm going to be starting to use YouTube as a platform, and that is to be trying to sell my idea to you guys. And I'm just going to give a very brief overview to kind of get you guys a bit excited of the type of videos that I'm going to do. And I'm planning to do a crime script that is going to be based here in Melbourne. Now, if we think about mafia movies, which is the kind of genre that I want to go into, and there aren't many movies, if you think about all the mafia movies, they're all based in New York, but none of them have been based in Melbourne. And Melbourne is known for being like New York, as in the layout and maybe the grittier side that we have a lot of movies based in New York can show us. And if you think about all the mafia movies that I've made, they're more focused on the actual layout of the mafia, but they don't focus about what happens if it goes wrong, which is something that I really want to go into. It also doesn't focus on it, you know, most of the time if we see mafia movies, maybe Godfather or Goodfellas, it focuses on males. But what happens if you use a young female? What happens if you use a Kenyan Australian female? Again, going back to using more diverse people. There aren't many roles made for African Australians. I can't name one African Australian that has made it into the industry. So if I try and make a movie that has a role that is fit for African Australians and it does well, then it not only does it help the movie, not only does it bring light for that actor in the industry to say, hey, I exist, I'm you know, something more unique to Hollywood, and I'm going to work my way to get where I want to be, which I think can be very, very powerful in Hollywood. I'm also thinking to have the movie based in, like, obviously, you know, the main parts of Melbourne, things that make Melbourne unique, to show off Melbourne. Again, as Melbourneian, I absolutely love showing off. I love seeing travel influencers go to Melbourne to be like, hey, you've been to my city and I love you for that. You know, just using new locations to show a city in a different way. If you think about most of the Australian movies, is like, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes, tan, surfing, crocodile hunter, but not really focusing on the city, not really focusing that the fact that it can be gritty, that it doesn't have to be, you know, just a bunch of Australians or people doing incredibly bad Australian accents. It's like, oh, didgeridoo, g'day mate, because that's not how we speak, that's not how we work. And I think it is time, because there has been such a big age gap between, not an age gap, but such a big time difference between movies that have cemented Australia in Hollywood compared to what it can change into now. Because from what I've seen from the research that I've done, is that actually the last movie that was made in Australia or made in Melbourne specifically was 2010. And we're going into 2026, so if I can see changing that, I shall be very, very proud. So I'll leave you guys with this. What movie has truly, truly, truly surprised you? Because for me, I think it's starting to become very rare. So I'll leave you guys with this. What is the last movie that has truly, truly, truly surprised you? Because for me, that is becoming increasingly rare. So I'll leave you guys with this. What movie has truly, truly, truly surprised you in any movies that has come out recently? Because for me, that is starting to become increasingly rare. Thank you everybody for watching this video, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye everybody.